What do I think they should change from the books for Eloise's season of Bridgerton? And no, it's not the man. It is some of the things he does, however. I want to preface this by saying that every single Bridgerton season that we have seen so far has changed things from their book. And it is mainly to do with how the men treat the women. Because if you have read the books, you will understand this. And if you haven't, the men are heinous in the books. They are borderline abusive, and it is not a pleasant read. And Philip into Sir Philip with Love is no stranger to this. I also think that we need to accept the fact that Eloise will end up with someone at the end of her season. She will not end up alone. It is just a staple of the romance genre that there will be a union at the end of this. And therefore, Eloise will end up with a love interest, and that is something that we just kind of have to get over quickly. There are also some things that have already been established in the show that do change the plot of the book. For example, Eloise and Philip have been writing back and forth to each other for a while after Marina dies, and Philip and Eloise, they form a friendship, they form a kinship, and he asks her to marry him. And when she goes there, she discovers then and there that he has 2 children. He didn't tell her about this, whereas in the show, Eloise already knows that Marina was pregnant. She already knows that they have 2 children, so this surprise is already kind of out the window. I also don't think that plot point really added anything. I think it was more just to show that Eloise wasn't expecting to have to raise children because she never really wanted to be a mother, but that she can actually understand that this lifestyle, not having to birth them and then like deal with the toddler years, is actually better for her than anything else because she is an inherently caring person. And I do think that this needs to be stated, is that Eloise is caring. She does love her family. She doesn't love tiny little babies, but we have yet to really see her interact with children of a talking age. Another big change from the books that is inevitable is that Eloise is a more fully fleshed out character. In the books, she is similar, but she doesn't have the same political rigor that the show Eloise does. Eloise is a hardcore feminist. She's more of a radical than her family. She's very outspoken. She's very determined and also kind of like insular in a way that is kind of out there from the rest of her family. She doesn't fit in society, and we know this from the books, that she doesn't fit in society, and it's partly why she ends up choosing Philip, because he is someone who lives outside of society, and that's more of a life that she wants. She doesn't want to be around the ton anymore. She's always kind of been a bit sick of it to a degree. I think that the way that the Bridgerton show has already set up Eloise is going to prove beneficial for her season because they've made her so independent, and I like to believe that because Philip in the books is such an academic and such a botanist, and he loves like pursuing more scientific pursuits, that it will lend itself as kind of positive for Eloise in pursuing her dreams. She's more of a theoretical person. She's more of a political person. They are both incredibly knowledgeable and curious people though, and those 2 things are very compatible in a couple. One of my main issues with the Bridgerton books as a whole is that as I was reading them, I couldn't really see what the women were getting out of the relationship. I understood why the men were falling in love with the women, but I couldn't understand what the women were benefiting from them, especially with Benedict and Sophie, who he sucked. I hated him. Either way, the show Eloise has already presented herself as having a flaw when it comes to a companion. She wants to be seen, and she wants to be understood, and she wants to be supported, and that hasn't been shown for her. That hasn't been shown as an option. And so they've already presented an easy way for Philip to be the right companion for Eloise. He needs to support her. He needs to understand her in a way that no one else has. He might not completely understand the world of feminism and politics, but I don't think that's entirely necessary for him to want to listen to her, for him to understand that this is something that she's passionate about, that she should get to pursue. In this way, I think that this is something that the show should properly go for, with Eloise pursuing her academic pursuits. I wonder if they'll be able to get her into a university. Only a woman of her class would be able to even be considered to go at this stage in society. And therefore, I think that having the backing of a husband would actually help her in this way, because she is not only like a respectable woman from the Bridgerton family, she is also a respectable wife. She is highly intelligent. She has a lot of people backing her for this pursuit. I saw a couple of people saying that Eloise and Philip should just kind of like not get married and be companions, but like not have it like be a proper marriage, and then she should go to university. That wouldn't be accepted. It wouldn't be looked upon as like a good thing. They would be wondering why these 2 aren't married. It would become a scandal in itself. So I don't think that that's something that they should even try to pursue. I think there are basic elements of Philip's character in the book that I do think they should change. I don't think he should be as harsh. I don't think he should be as neglectful. I think we should see him trying really hard with the kids and failing, because he has never been modeled good behavior in his life. He doesn't know how to be a parent. This was not something that he even expected to be. He did not expect to be a parent. He wanted to study. He didn't want to be a father and a wife. And now he suddenly has been thrust into this world where all he knows and all he has ever learned is the abusive behaviors from his own father. He's an incredibly interesting character, but I don't think we should see the level that he is a kind of more neglectful and borderline abusive in the books. And this is the same with the previous seasons. Anthony, Benedict, both of them were awful in the books. Wouldn't recommend it. They are actually kind of borderline abusive. Each of them almost coerce their wives, their future wives, into having sex with them. It is not a pleasant read. So I do think they will inevitably soften his character to something that is more palatable visually, and also makes more sense why Eloise would even tolerate him or give him the time of day, because that is what they had to do with Sophie and Benedict. There is no way that the Sophie they created in the show would have dealt with half of the stuff that Book Benedict did to her. She would have kicked him to the curb immediately. I think the storyline with Marina is important. I do think it should be altered slightly, because I do think it becomes almost too dark, and almost he is aware that she is suffering and doing nothing to help. And I understand that he doesn't know how to help, but again, I think it just needs to be softened a bit for the screen, because otherwise he becomes a very unsympathetic character. So they need to kind of create him as more of a well-rounded, he's trying to help, he's trying to do good, maybe doing it wrong type of character, rather than just actively avoiding everything. I do think it's important to show that he is an avoidant personality type, however, and that he is learning to communicate better, especially through Eloise, and that he wants to do better, but it doesn't have to be as harsh as it is, because he's not just borderline avoidant, he is borderline abusive, and that's not great. I think they really need to dig into the nitty-gritty of Eloise's opinions on children, because we understand that Eloise at this point, she's not really opposed to marriage, she's opposed to marriage as it exists within the town and the marriage mart as a whole, but she does want a companion. Children, however, it seems pretty clear at this point that Eloise does not want anything to do with children. The way I've been reading it is that she doesn't want to have to go through the birthing process and deal with children when she can't talk to them, because her main want in life is to talk to people, to engage with people, and therefore if the children are at a talking age, she might be able to deal with them a bit better. I do need them to properly delve into that character though, and that character trait in particular, and understand whether Eloise is completely opposed to children, which if she is, this storyline as a whole doesn't really work at all, or if she's more just kind of never been exposed to a life that might suit her a bit better. Does she get the benefit of not having to birth the kids herself? Does she get the benefit of now they're older and she can actually deal with them and not have to deal with nappies and everything? I'd like to know that more. A final point that I think they should definitely change from the books is the timeline. The timeline of To Sir Philip with Love takes place over 2 weeks alone. I think it should be significantly longer. I think we need a lot of time. I think we need to start the kind of season with Eloise and Philip writing letters to each other. We need to find out that Marina died. We need to have almost a long montage of time passing showing Francesca's grief. We need to show Eloise is getting more lonely. She's getting more isolated. We need to see Marina's death, or hear about it in some way. I think the whole first episode should just be focused on more distance. Whether it's Francesca or Eloise's season, but I do think it should be Eloise's, it should be about distance and the increase of loneliness in these characters. Everyone else is happy and married. She's not. Otherwise, there's not much else I would change from the book. I think Philip is an incredibly interesting character, and I can't wait to see him portrayed on screen, and I really do hope they keep it that way. And I can't wait to see what they do with Eloise's character as they created her now as a feminist, as an academic, as an ambitious person, and how they're going to follow through with that. Every single one of these books have been changed for the screen. This one will be no different. So I don't think we need to be so terrified that it's going to be a horrible adaptation or it's going to be a horrible season when they will inevitably change it. They've just got to announce that it's her season next, I guess. Waiting for that.